In this part 4 of relating the guitar to the piano, I'm going to talk about minor chords and scales, for this is actually quite a lot more involved than the major scale that I described in part 3. So we're going to base everything on C minor. It's the easiest way on the keyboard to compare the major and the minor. There are also reference materials at the end of this demonstration. At the end of this video you'll find all sorts of things that you can screenshot and use for your own study. So C minor, it's a sort of a darker sounding type chord than the major. Note that we cannot play an open C minor chord because we have an E there and an E here. I need to make those into an E flat, so I can do it with this one, but I can't do it with the open string. So you'd end up with this. So you can't do that. So I'm doing an A minor shape barred at 3rd fret. So there are 4 minor scales that I'm going to talk about which give rise to all of these chord possibilities. Let's have a look. Ultimately then, C major gives rise to C, D minor, E minor, F, G and A minor. That's what I described in part 3. However, the minor scales, I'm going to talk about 4 of them because they all have the first 5 notes the same: C, D, E flat, F and G. It's what happens with the 6th and 7th notes of the scale that make all the difference. So we have C harmonic minor. We have C melodic minor. We have C natural minor. And we have C Dorian. So the 6th and 7th notes are either flat, or they're both natural, or one or the other. So we get 4 combinations. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this on the piano from now on, because then you can see how this ultimately is going to work. C major on the piano then does this. And we number the degrees of the scale, or the notes, 1 to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Where 8 is the same as 1. So you can keep going. You can call this 9, 10, 11 or whatever, or we can call it 2, 3 and 4 again, just like we had in the previous octave. So we're starting on C and finishing on C, but you can go to the next C, for example. You can do whatever you like. Now, C minor, I talked about 4 scales just now with the guitar. Harmonic minor. What we've got here is the 3rd has been flattened, 4th, 5th, the 6th has been flattened, but the 7th has been left unadjusted from the major. So we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7 and 8. Now this is called harmonic minor because it is describing the harmony that you might find in an old style classical piece, for example. So if we just take similar to the C major chord where we just use these 3 notes, C minor is this, F minor, which is chord 4, and chord 5, which is a major chord. So it sounds quite old school. What I did actually was to change the order of the notes. There's chord 4, F minor. I just brought that C down here. And then my G chord, G major, was this version here. Now what I can do is I can bring the other hand over here to play the bass note of every chord, so I'm using my left hand as well. Sometimes that can help if you're dealing with these chord inversions where you're changing the order of the notes in the chord, because it sounds like that note is at the bottom, whereas it should be this one. All of those chords there was C minor, and I had my left hand on C just as a reference. So the next scale I talked about was the melodic minor. Now what this does is this: 1, 2, flat 3, 4 and 5, which are common to all of the minor scales that I'm going to talk about, normal 6th and normal 7th. So I've only got one flat. This means that chord 1 is C minor, chord 4 is F major, and chord 5 is G major. So instantly we get a different noise, a different sort of style of music, in that this F major, this chord of 4 major, makes it sound a little bit more modern. Now, the next scale I'm going to talk about is the natural minor, which does this. So there's our first 5 notes again: 1, 2, flat 3, 4 and 5. Then both the 6th and the 7th are flattened. That means that my chords 1, 4 and 5 are all minor chords. The last type of scale that I would talked about was the Dorian mode on C, which does this. There's your first 5 notes again that are the same. And then this time the 6th is left unaltered, but the 7th is flattened. So I end up with this. So I've got an A natural, but a B flat, which means that my chords of 1, 4 and 5 are C minor, F major and G minor. There's masses going on. Now, I've only talked about chords 1, 4 and 5 so far, because they are really the main ones that you have in a chord sequence. Of course, there are lots and lots of other chords. If I pick the natural minor, so that's the third one that I talked about. That means that I can construct my chords on each degree of the scale. So I have C minor, D diminished, E flat major, F minor, G minor, and A flat major, and B flat major. C minor, D diminished, E flat major, F minor, G minor, A flat major and B flat major. So I've constructed a chord sequence just using the notes in the natural minor scale. Now, of course, if you change the scale, you're actually changing the chords as well. If I, for example, use the Dorian mode, I end up with an A there. So that means that if I'm in C minor, I've got a D minor chord. So it's all starting to sound a little bit weird. but it's really the awareness of what's going on here is the fact that you've got notes 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 that stay the same. Then the 6th can either be normal or flattened. The 7th can be normal or flattened. So these 4 notes, or rather the 2 degrees that can be varied, either neither is varied, one, the other, or both, gives rise to all of the chords that you could possibly have in a minor key, in C minor. This is just C minor. Of course, all of the other keys have to be worked out as well, but as a guitarist, you would be playing in patterns, so you'd be able to use your ears more in order to define the theory on the piano.